Hi, Zizaran here with another Diablo 4 video, but sadly, this is a video about Druid.
Bruh.
So, like I said, we are gonna make a video about Druid. It is definitely one of the Diablo classes of all time. Yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't love it. It has a lot of issues. It drives home a lot of the issues in the game, actually, where Druid is sort of very rough without legendaries, and you gotta remember, it was confirmed by Rod on Twitter that legendary rates are boosted for the beta. So with that in mind, you're very unlikely to get a specific legendary, especially like the ones that aren't from aspect dungeons. But yeah, gonna be very rough without legendaries. So I've tried a lot of different builds. I had a few that worked really well with legendaries, and I wanted to make a joke video where I farmed that like level 35 mace. So I do actually have like a crazy 440 item power staff with 600 damage, which is, you know, double the amount of like normal weapons that you find that are high. I did think about just making a video, making fun of everybody for failing to make Druid work and be like, dude, it's so easy. Look at me, I'm one-shotting everything. But instead I decided, because I mean, you can see the attack damage literally doubles. Instead I decided to make an actual serious video and talk about the problems it has. Now, do keep in mind, this is level 25 and it's a beta and there's 2 months to release. So the majority and most of the problems that Druid have are incredibly fixable, Copium. They're incredibly fixable, or they might be already fixed in... it's also being confirmed by another dev that it's an older version of the game that we're playing. It's not the newest release. So with that in mind, they could be fixed, right? Surely. Surely. Druid felt very rough, not necessarily in comparison to the game, but in comparison to other classes. Druid feels extremely rough to play without legendaries. With Necro and Sork, both of these builds felt really good, and I enjoyed playing them with no legendaries. Didn't need any whatsoever, just very strong. Loads of different abilities you can use. Obviously, some were a lot stronger than others, but you have a lot of choice there. With Druid, that is not really the case. They're more like, okay, this ability doesn't feel like complete horseshit. And it relies so much where some abilities is basically things like Landslide, where, you know, you really want to make sure that you can immobilize or stun the enemy. And that doesn't work on a lot of bosses. They're immune to that. So it doesn't always work on everything. I'll show you basically what I ended up doing. And this is around a unique as well. And that is that like bear slam every 10 seconds. And then I'm just trying to regenerate mana. And the mana regen stuff is completely awful on this build. It feels very, very awful. That is the big problem of Druid and Barbarian, is the resource generation. And not everybody wants to go around hitting like random boxes and debris or trash monsters to actually get resource generation back, which is kind of weird that it can to begin with. So that's basically it. That's kind of my build. I do have Vine Creeper. And I also have Wolves. They missed very, like that one missed. So that's great. And then we have like the Petrification ultimate skill, which is a lot more just a utility. Honestly, I don't feel like any of the Druid ultis are good or empower the word ultimate at all. They are, I think the only class that even had an ultimate that feels like an ultimate is Sork, with like the big turn yourself into a frozen block and freeze everything around it and kill the world. Like, at least that feels like an ultimate. And then I have Earth Barrier. And I saw a few other people manage to make Druid work, but they were all around legendaries. I didn't see a build that compares to Sork or Necro without a legendary on Druid. And that's kind of sad. So hopefully that's something that fixed. I just want to be vocal about it because that's something I really hope is either completely not the case endgame, where they've already thought of it and like, yeah, it's a little rough while leveling, but endgame Druid is the strongest class in the game and it's awesome. Or that there's balance issues that they've like addressed or will address. So that's why I want to talk about it. Didn't really feel like a lot of the skills were cool. Druid is definitely my least favorite class by far. So as you can see in the background, now I'm playing fully spec'd into Druid. And first I tried playing Summoner with just no legendaries because that worked really good on Necromancer. My summons, especially while speccing into it, actually, even without taking a single thing related to summon, my summons were making a big difference in my build. I could stand around and they would actually kill things. even while fully invested into summons on Druid, they did nothing, pretty much. The Wolf Leap did some damage, but other than that, they did pretty much nothing. And that misses a lot of the time and has long cooldowns. Then I found a legendary item that is gain 1 additional companion and they deal 240% more damage. I was thinking, okay, well, now it'll at least be playable. Well, that's what I'm using right now in the background. And this is fully spec'd into every minion node with your minions deal more damage, etc. And I'm just despairing. Like, how is this what it looks like with a legendary item and every node? And there is apparently a legendary item that I haven't found yet. I have been farming for things a lot, but I think I didn't spend too long. It was like 4 or 5 hours farming to try to get it, as well as buying legendaries. There is one that turns your wolves into werewolves. That's supposed to be pretty cool and combine it with rabies, and that sounds fun. But now you're starting to see the problem, right? It's very specific. You need this legendary or you need this power or it doesn't work. Depending on if aspects are even available early or not, it's going to be a little rough. You definitely don't want to be like that reliant on legendary powers. You want every skill with no legendary to feel similar to other classes, right? You would like Necro without legendaries to feel similar to Druid without legendaries. So that is some numbers I would like adjusting. I did try a lot of different skills. I did try like lightning skills. I tried tornado. I tried rabies. Especially early, the melee ones felt really bad. It's because you're in melee and early on you have no form of escaping the auto attacks. I did say in another video that the auto attacks are overwhelmingly punishing. And then one of the replies from a viewer, it's intended. It's a gear check. That's why auto attacks are so unavoidable. I'm specifically talking about the levels 1 to 10. You are not supposed to have an intended gear check at the levels 1 through 10 because you have no choice in gear at those levels. So auto attacks early feel incredibly punishing. And it's not something you can just like walk around or even use your dodge ability for. I'm assuming that all of these things are fixed or will be fixed. And I'm hoping to have a good experience with Druid at launch. This is a lot of people's first impressions, and they're really put off by this. I've been talking to people in my chat all day, and a lot of people are like, fuck Druid at launch. It feels really bad. So regardless if that is true or not, that is the feeling that a lot of people will end up sitting with, and that is very bad. Because you probably shouldn't have to go, oh man, well, it's probably different, right? It should just feel good. It should just give you a good experience. Rogue, Necro, and Sork does that. Even Barb to some degree once it's high level. And you can start seeing the potential. Honestly, the worst thing about both Barb and Druid is the resource generation. It is crazy to me that a game puts so heavy focus on resource generation and cooldowns at the same time. It feels very bad to have both in such a way. At least Druid doesn't like degenerate spirit out of combat, and you can increase it by hitting boxes. That's still really weird to me. But it feels incredibly bad. This is definitely my most ranty video on Diablo 4. I forced myself to play it to 25 to try it out at the highest level. I gotta say, I really disliked it. I'm still very excited for Diablo 4 at launch, but the Druid definitely did a lot of damage. Another thing that I think was a little bit crazy was just the numbers on the Druid legendaries. For example, the one I have is Pulverize creates a shockwave that travels forward, dealing 252 of its damage to targets in its path. So it gets a 250% multiplier in addition to changing the way the skill works. I don't think skills should need that to be functional. Like, they should feel really good on their own. And then legendaries can either do a lot of damage or change its functionality. But I don't know if it should do both. Not in that way. I don't think that's good, personally. But let me know how you feel. Were you able to make any Druid builds, especially without any legendary? Or do you feel like it does not compare to the other classes without legendaries? I definitely do feel like that's a problem. And feel free to even talk about in the comments legendaries you found that was made you able to make some good builds. Because I've seen several good Druid builds with legendaries, like a Rabies build, the Wolf Rabies, Pulverize, etc. And a few other ones. So talk about that in the comments too. Either way, sorry for the negative video. I just think it's important to talk about, and I hope that it does get fixed rather than not. Either way, I hope you guys have been enjoying Diablo 4. Thanks for watching, and try to die less than Druid does.